Universe Mode has been the foundation of this YouTube channel for nearly 4 years now, spanning over the course of 4 games, 300 episodes, and 178 hours of published material. If you were to watch the entire series non-stop from start to finish, it would take you about a week, assuming that you don't need any food, sleep, or a bathroom. Currently, Universe Mode comprises roughly 50% of my content, and while that percentage will slowly decrease with time, it's safe to say that Universe Mode isn't going anywhere anytime soon. It goes without saying that I've put a lot of effort into this series, so of course I'd like you to believe it's the greatest thing in the history of YouTube. However, unless your name is Tye Dillinger, nothing is perfect, so to say that my passion project contains its fair share of flaws would be a massive understatement. Greatness comes from knowledge, and knowledge comes from experience, which is something that I lacked when I started this channel years ago. As a result, there are many moments or storylines that, looking back on them, were absolute garbage. And while I'm not the kind of person who regrets or tries to hide things, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't try to quietly sweep them under the rug or maliciously beat them over the head with a shovel. So today on Behind the Universe, I present you with 4 things we could pretend never happened.
Because the top 5 concept is
John Cena!
I was pretty surprised when I found out that Batista wouldn't be in WWE 2K17. Since 2K already had his model, I didn't expect them to cut Big Dave from the game. Hey, between Batista and Ryback being cut from the roster, maybe that will give me some material for a future video, wink wink nudge nudge.
Subtle hint, subtle hint.
While Batista's time in Universe Mode may have been shortened because of this, he never really had the greatest track record in the first place. His first stint on Raw featured moments like his return at Survivor Series, on the pre-show no less, to fight Daniel Bryan after he had struck a deal with Paul Heyman. Okay. Then he moved on to lose to Bryan in a rematch at TLC. Congratulations on the winning streak, Dave. Then he defeated The Rock. Hey, he's been on this list before. To become #1 contender for the WWE title. Plenty of consistent booking here. He lost to Cena at Royal Rumble. He was eliminated early in the Elimination Chamber, and then he just sort of vanished. That alone could be worthy of a spot on the list, but that's nothing compared to Batista's debut to the series. As some of you know, Batista made his SmackDown debut in episode 4 of WWE 2K14. The moment itself is actually one of my favorite moments of the 2K14 season, but what happened after that really dropped the ball. Batista not only lost his debut match against Wade Barrett, but he also lost another shot at the title in a triple threat match against Mark Henry and Big Show. Fortunately for Big Dave, I had initially advertised a championship scramble for that year's SummerSlam. A few weeks into the game's lifespan, however, I noticed something. There was no championship scramble match. Right off the bat, I had booked myself into a corner and I needed a way out. That's why in the final episode before SummerSlam, I shoehorned in a match between Sheamus and Batista where, if Batista won, the match would be changed into a 6-man battle royal. In a shocking twist that surprised no one, Batista won the match and by extension, kept his shot at the world title alive. Spoilers! He didn't win the match, and what's worse, he wasn't even in the final 2. Shortly afterwards, Batista took a leave of absence and was never seen on SmackDown again. I'm not entirely sure what was going through my head at this time, but given the number of opportunities I gave Batista, it's obvious that I wanted him to win the world title at SummerSlam. Since I didn't fully control the matches, however, my plans were thwarted at literally every turn. Once the dust had settled, I figured that the best thing for Batista would be to write him off and start fresh somewhere down the line. By the time I brought him to Raw, however, my focus had shifted to developing future superstars like Daniel Bryan, Ryback, and the like. Despite this being the case though, I would have allowed Batista the win over Bryan at TLC if the AI had given it to him. I even considered letting him keep the WWE title until WrestleMania if he had defeated Cena at Royal Rumble. I still think that Punk vs. Batista would have been a better match than Punk vs. The Rock. Hey, there he is again! Instead, Batista lost both of his opportunities at the Gold before fading into obscurity. I was tempted to never bring him back, but the eventual thought of putting him on Team Ambrose won me over in the end. I'm not sure how much time Big Dave has left in the series, but when I do eventually let him go, I doubt that we'll ever see the animal return to Universe Mode again. This one's pretty simple. I want you all to take the entire Attitude Era section of WWE 13 and push it somewhere else. Seriously, that gimmick might have been a good selling point for WWE 13, but there wasn't any longevity there. Bringing back a legend to feud with new talent is one thing, but building an entire show around superstars from the 90s? What was I thinking? It's not like I could have done a crossover, the brand was essentially set in its own timeline. Just imagine Hunter Hearst Helmsley squaring up against a modern day Dolph Ziggler. If I was looking for fantasy matches, that could have worked, but I wanted a realistic product. This brand completely goes against that on every level. I guess younger me just wanted to try his hand at every possible option and include everything. In short, it didn't work. Just get this thing out of my sight. I briefly mentioned this before, but The Undertaker's time as part of the Shield is something that I'd like to ignore. I'm a poet and I didn't even know. So at SummerSlam, Undertaker and Team Hell No, or Daniel Bryan and the Brothers of Destruction, I never decided, fought in defeat against the Shield. At Night of Champions, John Cena won the WWE Championship from Dean Ambrose. Remember how great that title reign was? And The Undertaker set his sights on Big Match John later that night. Now stop me when things have gone too far. In the build-up to No Way Out, The Undertaker set Dean Ambrose on fire, fought against the Shield in a handicap match. As I was doing research, I stumbled across this gem of an episode, and joined forces with Cena against the Shield in yet another losing effort. I have to admit that the build-up to Taker's turn actually isn't that bad. The Shield was a constant presence in Taker's rivalry with Cena to this point, the Hell in the Cell would keep Rollins and Reigns out of the mix, and the whole fire thing set up Ambrose for a shock return from under the ring. That's about where my praise for this angle ends. Don't get me wrong, the image of Undertaker in a Shield-like attire is pretty cool, but that's not enough to justify the outcome of No Way Out. This alliance really only served one purpose in-universe, and that was to get The Undertaker the WWE title. From a kayfabe perspective, it was supposed to boost the Shield higher up in the card, but they were already making waves in the main event to begin with. It's true that they didn't actually headline a pay-per-view as a unit until Survivor Series, but Undertaker wasn't even there when that happened. No Way Out was essentially the only time that these four worked together before Taker was banished, so why even have the alliance in the first place? Instead of helping The Undertaker, why not have Ambrose hijack the Hell in the Cell match? There would have been no Team Icons, but since Hogan and Austin were one-shot deals anyway, why not have The Rock join Taker and Cena at Survivor Series? Throw the title on the line. Make it a six-pack challenge for all I care. Anything would have been better than this pointless alliance. Hell, if I wanted the alliance so badly, it could have worked if I had done something with it. Unfortunately, just like the majority of my early work, this angle was driven by a single moment of shock value with no substance behind it. The most exciting part of any journey right next to the ending is the beginning. That's why 3 of my most popular videos are first episodes. Everything has to start somewhere, and there are many ways that creators can use that to their advantage. A strong series needs a strong start, whether that be a tournament to crown an inaugural champion, a shocking announcement from an authority figure, or even just starting the series with the preset champions. Wait, what was that last one again? Starting with, but that's about the least creative thing you can do. You have this entire platform to do whatever the hell you want, and instead you choose to start with a bare minimum? That's not easy to recover from. It's a good thing that I didn't do that. Okay, so I've explained before that there wasn't any grand plan for this series when I began in 2012. I was just doing whatever and hoping that something would stick. Still, just look at these champions! We've got Santino as US champion, Miz as Intercontinental champion, and oh my god, is that Primo and Epico? What the f are the Cruiserweight tag titles? Oh no. That means that the Shining Stars, Los Matadores, were once champions in my universe mode. No. I mean, most of these champions lost their titles at the first pay-per-view, not you. I even had a whole tournament to crown the man who would dethrone Sheamus. We'll get to that one in a future video. But if I wanted to do that, why didn't I just... Back in the day, I was working within Universe Mode's limitations because I apparently had never heard of exhibition matches before. And I guess I wanted to have already established champions when I began. But out of the 7 champions that I began with, we're not counting those f***ing Cruiserweight tag belts, only 3 still kept theirs after Extreme Rules. And Kofi even got a completely different partner. Now, don't get me wrong, CM Punk and Beth Phoenix were great champions. But if I didn't want these guys to be champions, why did I let them start with the belts? I don't... Look, let's just pretend this never happened, okay? Thanks for watching. It's been a while since the last Pretend It Never Happened. So I thank you for being patient with me while I explore some other topics of discussion. I know that I left a few ideas open-ended for the next one, so expect that to drop in a much smaller time frame than the previous installment. The support of Behind the Universe so far has been amazing, and I can't thank you enough for it. Between Universe Mode, Career Mode, and the upcoming GM Mode series, I'll have a ton of content for you to enjoy along with these videos, so be sure to stick around if you're new here. If you want to stay up to date on any information that might affect production, or just watch some of my spontaneous ramblings unfold, then be sure to follow me on Twitter at MathWiz97x. Unless something catastrophic comes up, I'll be more likely to post there than here, so keep that in mind. I hope you enjoyed the new video, and until next time, keep on YouTubing.